To summarize what happened in 2020, we kind of have to go back in time to 2019, where widespread adoption of the precision scheduled railroading methodologies really took hold of all North American Class 1s. Obviously, the Canadian railroads had been doing it a bit longer, but the adoption domestically had created opportunities for the railroads to increase their financial position by becoming more efficient and leaner and really increasing their asset velocity. Now, what that does is it essentially provides only enough capacity for what the market really dictates the need truly is. So as you look at the back half of 2019, as you kind of got into December with the administration basically waging a tariff war on China, we saw a lot of pull forward freight come in globally. We also saw very strong domestic volumes because 2019 had been a strong year domestically anyways, and it only increased as more and more imports hit Western ports and Eastern ports, frankly, creating a drain on domestic capacity because quite a few international shipments start life in a marine container and they become transloaded into a 53-foot domestic container, which is why the blend of volume between international and domestic intermodal is always so codependent. Unfortunately, all of that seemed to happen at the same time, and it created a huge drain on capacity, both in the drayage space, ports were congested, and we also had a lack of capacity on the West Coast. And then all of a sudden, the world kind of changed for us, both domestically and internationally as well. We had a big V shape to our volume through 2020, and the bottom of that V sort of struck first in international around March, and then for domestic in April. And the cause for that was the obvious Chinese New Year shutdown that we always see every year. But on top of that, there was the coronavirus epidemic really spreading through China and causing widespread factory shutdowns and a real turnoff to manufacturing capacity. And then as we sort of got into March and April, we had this perfect storm of factors that really led to a ratcheting down of rail capacity because, you know, if you're the railroads and you're trying to run as efficiently as possible, you're going to have a huge drain on your revenue and your demand. And when that happens, you need to basically ensure that your cost structures are aligned with your new reality. Unfortunately, what no one could have predicted was that meant that they were ill-served for any sort of uptick in capacity, especially one that was as quick as we saw. The demand landscape for imported goods never really was affected. The only thing that really affected us in 2020 was the ability to get goods out of China. And when that returned, we saw unprecedented demand at a time where the railroads were underserved. 2020, in a nutshell, has been volatile, to sum it up in one word. And you know, there's no real end in sight to when that volatility will taper off, but we are seeing at least some stability in demand. One of the biggest challenges for shippers in 2020 has been getting carriers to cover the loads that they say they're going to cover. So shippers have been really challenged this year, and not just with carrier issues, but also their own forecasting. There was no way that CPG companies could have ever predicted the uptick that they saw. You know, even if they were able to react quickly and make more product, finding carriers to haul it when everyone else is looking for the same capacity created a huge crunch for shippers. And that's why they saw their carriers fall off and be unable to support their business. You know, even if those carriers were there for them through thick and thin in the past, I mean, there's only so much capacity in the marketplace. And while I would say that the capacity landscape is somewhat unaltered, it's fragmented across essentially North America, but specifically domestically, we're seeing, regionalization of capacity like we never have before. It became harder for certain shippers to find capacity, and even when other shippers could find capacity, they were probably paying more for it. It's been a challenging market for shippers in 2020. On the rail side, we've also seen some of the behaviors of PSR railroads manifest in excess charges for rail shippers. So things like storage, demurrage, container usage, all of these have gone up fairly dramatically, and that cost gets passed on to end consumers. And that's a product of supply and demand, and unfortunately, it's a reality for shippers in 2020, and is likely going to set the stage for 2021 as well. NFI brings scale to the table, and how that helps in intermodal is, we're able to say yes to our customers because we are in possession of equipment, and we're asset-based too. So When we think about what makes us successful and stand out from the crowd, it's the fact that we have very deep relationships with Class 1 railroads, and owning the assets really does open that door. On the non-asset side of the business, we have a very large scale in this marketplace, and that affords us the ability to reuse equipment that may have been picked up in another market. And our ability to do that and work with drayage partners at the scale that we do gives us a competitive advantage in this marketplace. One other key differentiator for NFI, because it's our DNA, is our ability to communicate. Unfortunately, 2020 was a year of difficult conversations, but conversations we had to have with our shippers, and frankly, one we're always happy to have, because informing our customers on how the market is reacting, both in the rail space and the non-asset side of our business, it makes us who we are.